People always talk about games aging poorly. Don't play Resident Evil 1 because the tank controls are in the game. Don't play Gen 1 Pokemon because it is flawed and unbearably slow. Don't play the original Metroid because it's too cryptic and too punishing, and you have to type in those massive, massive passwords. And to an extent, yeah, that's kind of expected. Series innovate, technology is updating, developers are getting better, game designers are getting better, so it should be expected that over time series get better and there would be limited reason to go back to the old when the new is improved, visually and from a gameplay perspective. But what about old games that have actually aged better over time? That's something that I want to talk about today. I have 3 examples that I wanted to share, and I'm not talking about modern games that just get patched by developers. So I'm not talking about like No Man's Sky or Fortnite or these other games where they launch in a bad state and the developers fix them up. I'm talking about games that launch long time ago, and for whatever reason they're actually better, more fun, more relevant to play today. And I have 3 examples. They are all have a different reason for being on the list, but these are not by any stretch of the imagination the only 3. So let me know down below what games you think have gotten better as time has gone on. But before we get into the list, we are doing a giveaway at 2,250 subs for a copy of Risk of Rain 2 on your platform of choice. So if you love us, sub us, and yeah, like the video, and as I said, let me know down below what would be on your list. So the first game is a game I actually just recently played for the first time, and that is Metal Gear Solid 2. The message of this story is more relevant today than it ever has been, especially when it launched, and even more so, especially when it was originally written. For those of you who have already played the game, imagine being Kojima and writing the first draft for this script in 1999 with no social media, and social media being a good 4 or 5 years away, super basic internet, he's not watching YouTube, he's not watching this video, that's for sure, and pre 9/11. And that last point is kind of hard to tell if it matters. There's definitely some bias in me and the majority of people watching this being American, but it definitely, at least especially for Americans, shaped the world, and he is writing the story largely from the perspective of Americans. So it's literally unbelievable to me what he called out. And for those who haven't played the game, there's going to be a link to a codec conversation that I think really sums up the driving points of the game in about 7 minutes. I would highly recommend watching it if you don't care for Metal Gear Solid 2 spoilers at this point, and you don't really need to understand what's going on in the game so much as just listen to this codec call and you'll get the beats. But he essentially, and for those who played, you know this codec call, he accurately calls out phenomena like meme culture, widening rift in political views due to insulated pockets of self-selected internet communities, offense/cancel culture, and information overload, as well as other things. And again, I think this one codec call really just drives his point home. I can't imagine playing that game in 2001 or 2 and getting this message presented to you and seeing it be at all relevant or nearly as relevant as it is now. Honestly, it might not have even made sense back then. And the other thing I want to talk about that actually makes MGS2 more tolerable is kind of similar to a reason why a game like Wind Waker would be able to be on this list also. When Wind Waker came out, it got huge backlash for the art style, and a lot of people panned the game and didn't like it and kind of couldn't get that out of their head. And much like Wind Waker, there was a huge switch up in Metal Gear Solid 2 where you play as Raiden, not Solid Snake. And over time, things have settled and it's no longer a surprise. So people won't pick up the game, play the game, and be like, what? I'm not playing Snake. Or if you don't like that you're not playing Snake, you know that there's many other games in the catalog you can now go to where you can play as Snake. So it's not as much of a gut punch, and it's no longer a surprise. Much easier to tolerate. Despite not knowing about playing as Raiden is directly tying into core themes of the game. Like there was a meta that Kojima was doing where you not knowing that you are playing as Raiden, that bait and switch is a direct theme of the game that's trying to be put on you. You're still able to understand the game fine without that, and it's a much easier pill to swallow today in 2020. Seriously, play it again if it's been a while for you, and I think Metal Gear Solid 4 and Death Stranding may be looked at similarly in decades to come as a game that was really calling shots way before their time. The next game on my list is on this list for a more community-driven reason than a coincidental or soothsayer-like call out from a narrative perspective, and that is Super Smash Bros. Melee. Again, I said this is more community driven. Melee is one of the older esports out there. It's by no means the oldest, but it's one of the older, and it is one of the longest lasting, that's for sure. It has developed a much deeper understanding and learning of the game than day one Melee. And I mean, just some of these techniques like wave dashing, shield dropping, just matchups and meta, and all of this happened while keeping the game from becoming stale. Even 2019 Melee has a decent number of viable competitive characters, with Pikachu winning a huge tournament. I mean, obviously Fox and Falco, Falcon winning a main tournament, Peach was devastating for years, Marth winning a major tournament, Puff, the best player in the world playing Puff, Yoshi, huge Yoshi Amsa player who comes over from Japan all the time, and many players playing Sheik. There's still a ton of competitive viable characters, so this game is not stale, still developing, and still getting better. Day one Melee is not 2020 Melee, and 2020 Melee is almost 100% better, I would say, than day one Melee. But the good thing about all this is you can still, having never played Melee, pick up Super Smash Bros. Melee and have fun. It's not, I mean, it is very different from Ultimate, but if you've never played a Smash Bros. Game and you pick up Melee, put it down, you pick up Ultimate, put it down, you've never played Smash before, you'd probably be like, yeah, these are pretty similar games. So you can still have fun with it, still super fun, but the depth of the game has gotten much more insane and amazing, and it really did spawn this platform fighting genre and brought Smash to where it is today. But I still think Melee is, we need more time to decide if Ultimate will ultimately kick Melee down, but I think Melee still has many good years left in it. And if you are kind of new to Melee and want to know about all this development that I talked about, or want to kind of recap, there's a really good Smash Brothers documentary which will also be linked in the description. And the last game I want to talk about is Resident Evil 4 for yet another reason. And that reason is sometimes you don't know how good a thing is and when you'll get another dose of that good thing. Resident Evil 4 hit the scene with almost universally praised reviews, pretty much calling it the best game of all time. That was thrown out many times when this game launched on the GameCube, but we didn't quite think the Resident Evil series was going to go in the direction that it did. Resident Evil 5 was announced and everyone, including myself, went insane. This was one of the most hyped games I can ever remember being hyped for. Like, this is one of my all-time biggest hype games, Resident Evil 5. And then it came out, and kind of like Super Smash Bros. Brawl, everyone was like, interesting. This is not what we expected. Resident Evil 6 will be better. Resident Evil 6 continues to stray farther from Resident Evil 4, and people again are scratching their heads. Resident Evil 7, super great game, and at this point we're already well a decade out from Resident Evil 4. Resident Evil 7 still a super great, super fun game, but first person, definite departure in gameplay style from Resident Evil 4. So while it's a good game, it's not the style that Resident Evil 4 diehards really wanted. And now that we're back with the 2 and 3 remake, it remains to be seen if they're going in the right direction for sure, but it remains to be seen if they're truly going to kind of dethrone Resident Evil 4. But as it stands, and as it stood for years and years, if you wanted to play a game like Resident Evil 4, you best be playing Resident Evil 4, because it showed that there wasn't really anything that could touch it for a long, long time. And that's my list, guys. Let me know what you think should be on this list. It could be a much bigger list. Those were just 3 that have been relevant to me fairly recently that I thought I would talk about. Metal Gear Solid 2 inspired this, but yeah, let me know what you think. That's all for me. I'll catch you guys next time.